Hey, RetconRaider here, and welcome back to Battle Brothers Season 3. As today, with our latest ambition complete, we leave the wildlands behind and head back for more civilized climes. At least temporarily. I mean, it will ultimately depend on exactly what our next ambition ends up being. But given that we know ultimately our next main goal is to hit the icy cave, I think instead of heading straight east or south towards the nearest towns, we'll actually go ahead and curve northeast, take a big line of fog off here, and then exit around this area. Out towards Damwald, perhaps? That'll put us just south of the aforementioned cave. So regardless of what our next ambition ends up being, we'll be in the right place to hopefully knock out both at once. So, let's get to it. This should be a nice, easy warm-up. As the raiders began their long trek back towards more civilized shores, they stumbled upon yet another orc camp, the savage inhabitants wasting no time in rushing out to confront them. You know, I was thinking it was just Rook being Rook when he was yammering about these guys being a mite too thick out here, Mal observed. But now I'm starting to think he might be onto something. Well, I'm certainly glad to see that you've come around to my way of thinking, Rook said, pausing just briefly to thrust the tip of his pike through an approaching orc's neck. Not that it really matters, Seymore called from further down the line. We're still going to kill him anyway. Yes, I suppose that is true enough, Rook observed dryly, watching as Giannis hacked the leg halfway off of another orc runt. Of course, that's just really treating the symptoms, right? Mal said uncertainly, flicking the blood off his blade as he kicked over a fountaining corpse. That's what you'd say, right? An astute observation for a layman, Rook nodded. We may make an anatomist of you yet. And a few of the other raiders exchanged wary glances. But that was a concern for another time. They did have their hands a mite bit full at the moment. Though slightly less full after Valin javelined the hobbled orc runt. The rest of the raiders rushed in, moving up to meet the charging orcs, trying to stymie their efforts to use that momentum against them. Zarmal pointedly perforated an orc punk on north. Trip doing likewise on south, albeit to a full-on orc warrior. And the raiders piled it on. King's Rook impaling another orc's elbow. Arrow laying down more fire. Unerringly aiming for unhelmed heads. Cetra smashed a skull. An orc runt remaining upright despite his now slightly lopsided scalp. A sudden random swing. Another orc falls. and the first few foes try to flee. One dying on Diego's spear as it does so. Another making it at least a few feet. Zarmal sets in on the next warrior down the line. And the raiders start cleaning up. The fight already practically won. Half this would-be horde already trying to escape. Though, as per usual, the raiders see fit to halt that. As aptly evidenced by Trip's triple tap. The rest of the raiders redouble their efforts, not wanting to be undone. Seymore slicing through one. Before taking a hit in return. And to their credit, the orcs continue to fight as well. For all the good it does them. Zarmal doling out a double tap of his own. Rassel stuns the second to last before he can sprint away. Other raiders circling wide, trying to pin down the last. With Random getting it done. Val hobbles one, hatchet hacking deep. The second swiftly surrounded as well. Sensing an opening, Random strikes the second. Though Seymore swoops in and steals the kill as his own. And Rassel wrecks the last. The Orc Horde is undone in almost record time, with only Seymore any the worse for wear for it. Not, of course, that they have much to show for it. A group so paltry wasn't apt to have much in the way of plunder. But the raiders take what they can get, crude though they may be. The Orc weapons are worth their weight in gold. Sturdy metals just waiting to be melted down and reshaped by master smiths. Turned into the finest wares in the nearest outposts of industry. Yeah, we're pretty tight on space, but one of the main things to remember here is that we are running with a massive surplus of food, a lot of which will go bad before we actually even get a chance to eat it. So we'll be tactically dropping that as we find wares actually worth keeping. And as for Trip... oh wow, he actually hit soft cap before Zarmal. Which does put us in a bit of an awkward spot, because now, in retrospect, I realize we never actually took Fearsome, which I did have on my priority list for his particular build. But we've also now set ourselves up for Berserk. So, looking back on it, I probably shouldn't have taken Backstab. I mean, he's definitely gotten some decent use out of it, but I've got to go Fearsome. As it stands, he already struggles a bit with fatigue during longer fights, and Berserk would only exacerbate that. And as for stats, oof, flubbed that final melee roll, but I see some other numbers here we can work with. We'll grab the MDef, we'll grab the Resolve, and +5 initiative. With future legacy levels going towards melee, MDef, and then just generally evening things out. And on we go. Let's see what else we can find out here. Ooh. I don't know. I mean, that would be easy XP, but... Nah, we're not even going to waste time on that. Let's actually, let's check this spot right here. Nothing. Fair enough. But there are locations that are generally only located around those little lakes. So whenever we spot one, we should make sure we get right up on top of it, just to make sure. And there we go, a full-on orc war camp. Wargasharak. Sadly no named, but we do have a warlord. Yeah, I think our current crew can handle that. This one is definitely apt to be a bit more of a fight, though we've got racks on hand, so I'm not too worried about it. With the first group dispatched, the raiders pushed on, though it wasn't too much longer before they stumbled upon a second target of opportunity. An even larger camp than the first. This one filled to overflowing with heavily armored warriors. One particularly towering titan amongst them, Rax calling them out with a boisterous cry of challenge. The berserkers rushed in first, and the rest rampaged behind, a scattering of eager runts. The burly, bulwarked warriors, and Karosh Urgot himself, the closest thing the orcs had to a proper king, by virtue of sheer violence. But of course it was nothing the raiders hadn't faced before. Perhaps not quite in this quantity, but certainly at least in this style. Trip slipped in first. Blade finding its way between two bulky plates. The warrior attached, howling at the unexpected sting. Tommy stepped up next, javelin driven deep, another shoulder burdened. Mark moves up. A blistering blast, flaying flesh and tearing at tendons. Though the berserkers still stand. A problem partially rectified by a prompt pair of arrows. The first in line finally felled, the one behind bloodied. And Rax finally wades in, eye set on the most fearsome of his potential foes. Rassel and Diego push up, reinforcing the flanks. And Giannis fills the final gap. Jagged cleaver poised and ready, with Cetrus bringing up the rear. And thus the fight began in earnest. The Dagger Masters deftly doing their thing, blades flashing as they found gaps between bulky plate. Mark moving up, looking for his next shot. Racks his axe bit deep. Crescent blade cleaving halfway through an orc's faceplate. And the savage swarm began to circle on south. Random rushing to hold them back. A swing of his censer, cracking across 3 burly forms. One with the ratcheting crack of collapsing ribs. Arrow starts trimming the flank, trying to stem the tide. Centris finishes fracturing an orc's split face. But the rest continue pushing, the raider line stumbling back step by step. Oof. Yeah, I may have slightly underestimated these guys. This might be a problem. Another shot from Mark. A chain-wielding Chud's shoulder shredded. And yet they still stand. Rax hacks an orc's head halfway off. But again, he does not fall. Oh, guys, you're killing me. Mounting pressure on the south, threatens to overwhelm the raider line. Diego holding on north even as the mighty war chief begins to circle round. Random chokes up. And another vicious swing. More bones cracked and fractured. Bodies tumbling, but not entirely bowed. A vicious axe-wielding brute running around the raider line. Sights set. Blood flecked on the bowman beyond. Rassel grabs Random, yanking him back. Helping hold the south. Rax growls as Centris steals another kill. As Giannis tops one off as well. Cleaving straight through to another for good measure. The center line is fractured. Though more... Oh gosh. And once again, the brutes bear down. The raiders already fractured formation, buckling ever further. A sudden change of tact. A net set fly, festooning the fearsome orc warlord. A momentary setback at best, but a brief chance to breathe. Mark eyes the messy morass of mobs, wary of stepping out of place, of pushing too close to those savage blades. Finding himself menaced, Tommy grabs for his new spear. A gout of fire flares forth. The effect's fairly tame, but his opponent unnerved. A sharp stab from Rook. Another brute broken. Then he swiftly falls back, reinforcing the flank. One Orc Young stumbles around almost drunkenly before finally collapsing to the crabgrass. And Rax whacks away at their briefly bound boss, though barely breaks through his bulky bulwark. Bowman pops off a quick shot, then falls back. And exhaustion begins to take its heavy toll. Once fearsome blows now made feeble. As adrenaline wanes and attrition sets in. The mighty Orc war chief finally wrenches his way free of the ropes. The snap of frayed cables, cracking aloud over the crunch of metal and crack of bone. Cetrus driven back, Bowman menaced. Though a few foes do still try to flee. Rax wheels about. Crescent axe carving into the Orc at his back. The blade buries deep, bloody ribs bared. But Urgot now left unattended. Mark continues trimming the edges. Another blast, carving the calf off an unfortunate foe. Chain dragging heavily as the Orc Berserker continues stumbling by. Rook finally puts the other Berserker down. The southern line slowly being reshaped in the Raiders' distinct favor. Zarmal catching his breath. Diego driving the fight from the Orc in their midst. A sudden swing from one side. Zarmal caught off guard as he's suddenly knocked insensate. Certainly less than ideal considering his current position. Cetrus keeps chipping away. Rassel takes a breather. Whilst Giannis continues to fight. A few more hits doled. Raiders bloodied, but not yet broken. Two more try to flee. Two more swiftly felled. One to Giannis, the other to Rax. And at last, the Orc momentum breaks. The third sent bouncing across the terrain. Body twisted and broken as it comes to rest against shrapnel-torn brush. Another hefty strike from Rax, and Urgot finally breaks. And the Raiders on south swiftly find the same success. all but 2 of their foes now seeking to flee, with the raiders moving to intercept, pressing their advantage. A few more do continue to fight, but their efforts are fleeting at best. And futile as well. Few finding purchase this late in the fight. Though Zarmal is still struggling. Cowl torn away by brutish cleaver. And with one last swipe, Urgot meets a savage end. Head sent sailing, and burly body barreling to the ground. With that, the fight is all but done, the orcs falling in increasingly rapid succession. One to Rassel's roughhousing. Another to random flail. A third to Cetrus strike. A fourth to fire spear. And all the rest now routed. Increasingly ill-advised attempts at escape, only expediting bloody end. Oh, boy. Yeah, that definitely got a little out of hand for a bit there. I mean, we've certainly had worse, but my goodness. The part where they were all starting to wrap around the southern flank definitely had me sweating a bit. Not to mention Zarmal, of course. He definitely took a beating up north. But he pulled through. Sans injury, too. You know, I was just waiting for that one critical moment where someone actually does end up suffering a sucking wound. And then, you know, everything south from there. But it just never happened. A few more strikes, and the final 2 fall. One fittingly dying on Zarmal's bloodied blade. The last finding himself swiftly surrounded. Trip gouging into his side. Tommy pelting him with axes. Rassel cracking bones. And Rook finally running him through. Yeah, and look at that. Zarmal hit soft cap. Well earned, my friend. Oh, also, Mark and Rax as well. Very nice. Man, that actually makes the entire fight worth it. Especially given that, yeah, we didn't actually suffer anything in the way of really serious injuries. Just general flesh wounds that, while annoying, make for much easier recovery. We are, however, finally running shy on space, so give me a second here to do some shuffling to fit our choicer goods. And goods are good to go. Let's be on our way. Though, first things first, I suppose. Let's tag items for repair, reset our formation, knock out these level ups, of course. Though I will say, I think Mark also just hit soft cap, and I am not sure what we're doing with him. Though we'll get to that in just a moment. Oh yes, and tag items for repair. Plenty of prime goods here. And we also used a net. Which also frees up a space. Now for level ups, and Rax is easy. He hits his second legacy level, and we're just going to go for the standard trifecta. Zarmal follows in Trip's footsteps. Fearsome plus final stat distribution. We'll take the melee, we'll take the MDef, and yeah, I guess RDef as well. Shame to waste that +5, but he is behind the curve on RDef. Though we do need to bump that resolve. We'll do that with legacy levels. Which brings us to Mark, who does indeed hit soft cap. Our first gunner to do so. Which, as aforementioned, is a slight issue because while I was kind of holding out on recovery, while we decided whether or not it was really called for, there are other options that we could potentially take instead. He hasn't really struggled much with fatigue, not yet anyway. Though, there will come a point where it ends up becoming an issue in a fight, and then we'll feel silly if we don't have recovery. But we could also invest in things like Crippling Strikes, Executioner, or possibly even Footwork. That would give us a decent safety net for when the gunners get pinned down. The main drawback, of course, being that it would come at the very real cost of recovery. So, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and sit on that for now. I'd be curious to hear what y'all think before I officially pull the trigger. As for stats, nothing all that unusual there. We take the range, we take the initiative. Considering we were just talking about fatigue, perhaps we'll further offset the potential need for recovery by grabbing that +4. That also gives us some slightly more wiggle room for potential armor upgrades. Though, ultimately we are still beholden to the limits imposed by Nimble. Still waiting for that next ambition to pop. Would be nice to know what we're actually trying to get accomplished out here, as opposed to just wandering aimlessly while we wait. Well, look at that. Ask and ye shall receive. And looking at our options here, we're not really ready to take on another Hammer Master. Trading is tempting, but I don't really want to get bogged down with that just yet. So yeah, Explorer is our best bet. We're already out in the wildlands, might as well take advantage. Undead. No successful scouting. I'm going to say not worth the risk. Still counts for the ambition, though. We just have to locate, not actually clear. Yeah. Pass. Yeah, we'll pass on the goblins too. They're already headed the other way. Oh, snap. And we've got stone pillars. Another legendary location. One which honestly I'm a bit fearful to actually confront. Do I want to say that's another 2-stage? Stone circles and pillars with strange markings hint at something eerie looming in the area. Oh, that's just our blacksmith. Nothing to worry about. Oop. RandomPassrby is staring into the campfire and nodding as he mumbles to himself. It's a worrisome sight, but almost on cue of that thought, he speaks up. You know what, Captain? The greenskins ain't shit. Finally. I will say, on the one hand, I really kind of hoped it would be a more elaborate event, like he'd come to some sort of epiphany, but considering who we're talking about, I guess this does feel pretty fitting. Congratulations, bud. It's been a long time coming. You stumble across a woman in the swamps, alone and with a rucksack and a pannier with rolls of what may be maps, and there's a dagger to her left hip, and pots and pans to her right. There's a kicked campfire nearby, and a pile of tomes, shoed in a velvet sock. Everything she is and everything she has is covered in the greenery of the mire. She's standing there staring at you and you at her. It is not exactly ordinary for a woman to be out alone in a bog. She smiles quaintly, hesitantly. Hello. With a hand on the handle of your sword, you eye the surrounding parts for an ambush. You ask her what she's doing out this way, and she says you wouldn't believe her. You've seen enough to lend credence to even the edges of whatever insanity she could respond with. The woman nods. Well, all right then. Come on over and I'll show you. Okay. You tell the company to keep vigilant for scapegraces hiding in the swamp, but they only laugh and say you should have stopped at a brothel if you were so up and in a fit. Ignoring them, you head toward the woman. You find her on a log, a mushroom cap twisting in her hands, and she speaks rather honestly. I'm in search of a monster, and whether real or farce, to me it is a monster all the same. Understand? In a way, you do. Not all monsters are real, and a bog broad like this could be crazy. You ask her what this supposed beast is. She eats the mushroom and then grabs a book and throws it your way. There's a page held by a leaf and you open it. Drawn there is what looks like an octopus with limbs the size of longships. It is in battle with the whole navy and seems to even be winning. The woman leans forward, her limp green hands hanging like kudzu between her knees. The monster I'm seeking is the Kraken. Why? Who would actually want to find something like that? The woman leans back. She eats another mushroom and turns and stabs her dagger into a bug that had been scuttling across the log. Without so much as a pause, she eats it off the tip and speaks between mashing its carapace. Ordinarily, I'd be short on details and already waving this here dagger at your pecker, but I think you're keen on helping. I can see it in your eyes. You're a killer, a murderer, a lech, a fancier of coin, and a crazy sumbitch. She swallows the remains of the insect and spits out what's left like the shells of a sunflower seed. She nods. I'm the daughter of a wealthy nobleman, but I'm clearly far away from that life. That she is. Okay, so assuming I believe you, what do I need to know? She turns to her tomes and stares at them as though they were gravestones. My father owns one of the largest libraries in all the land. In those halls, I discovered stories of these very swamps, Stories by authors who unwittingly were repeating themselves. 10 years ago, 100, 1,000, all the same tale. A tale of men coming here and men disappearing. Resolution is not sought and answers are ambiguous. Bandits, diseases. One scholar simply said the men experienced such wonder at the beauties of the swamp that they decided to stay here. Can you believe that? Beauties of the swamp. Smirking, you say you're looking at one. She laughs. I haven't seen myself in months, but I'm serious, stranger. I've searched these parts and I haven't found a goddamn thing. She points a finger at her books. 20 disappearances with up to 300 men, armored with horses, some with caravans, some with protected highborn. And yet I look around out here and I don't see a single goddamn thing. Well, I mean, if you can't find evidence this thing even exists, then how exactly do you suggest we proceed? The woman rummages through her rucksack and produces a signet unlike any you've seen before. She flips it to you as though it were a shite counterfeit coin. Got plenty more where that came from. Well, not here exactly. Wouldn't want you getting any ideas about robbing and ravaging, you know. But you do what I ask and I'll dump a chest of those on you. You pocket the signet and ask her what's needed. She answers. That I'm not entirely yet sure of. Sailors talk of the Krakens as being natural enemies to whales. But, well, there are no whales around these parts, given we're on land and all. But there is something close. An unhold of the bog. I suspect the Krakens, through eons of time, moved inland and fed upon what they could, and, like when they were in the seas, found an enemy here just as well. Bring me 3 unhold hides, and I may be able to lure the beast out of its slumber yet. Out of its slumber? Where the hell would it even be sleeping? You shrug and figure if she's willing to rid herself of such magnificent jewelry, then you'd be more than happy to oblige her. Alright, I'll get cracking. About time we got some skin in the game anyway. That said, I'm not even sure we can handle a Kraken in our current configuration, but it is good to have the option at least. You know, that at least would be more manageable than, say, the Ancient Library, or the Black Monolith for that matter. Though for now, I think we'll stick with the Icy Cave and the Beast of Legend beyond. I will note, though, I think the Kraken is actually the beast. Oh, wow. Double champion. Shoot, we don't really have time for another real fight right now. Alright, well, I hate to say it, but yeah, we're not even close to town anyway. I was hoping we'd hit a market before we called it quits, so I could take care of the bookkeeping off screen, but no, we're still a ways out, and we've got a target we definitely don't want to pass up right in front of us. Granted, Goblin Champs aren't exactly apt to drop something we can actually use, but at the very least, it's a decent payday. That said, we'll hit the pause button for now. I will take care of what little bookkeeping I can out in the field as we are. I'll reset our formation, prep our guys for the fight to come, and we will pick up here next time, champing at the bit. See you then. Oh, and special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible, including but not limited to Eerie V23, Revenant, Alois, Arrow Bowman, Drakiith, EgonAlter, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, James Trimmier, Lady Shayna, Mark Giemza, RandomPassrby, RobbyB, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, if you'd also like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things. Trust me, it does make a difference. Or you could even check out the PayPal, the Patreon, the Nexus GG, or the YouTube memberships. Links are in the description.